listen, I am having the time of my life. I am interviewing such amazing, powerful women in their own rights. And it is just such a wonderful opportunity for me to meet with special women who dare to dream. And today I have an awesome opportunity to chat with Dr. Cheryl Cruz, and she and I are going to talk about, dreaming big, some of the things that she's done, some advice she could perhaps give to other women, and we're just going to have an awesome time today. So, thank you so much. How shall I address you, Dr. Cruz? I want to thank you so much. I want to give you your props, and I do appreciate that. Thank you for being here today, and I'm looking forward to just sharing with you and hearing from you as well about some of the things that you have going on, and hopefully we're able to encourage and inspire and uplift, other women who are going to be watching.
Great, great. Well, thank you, Rhonda, so much. I want to say I am very grateful for this opportunity and appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and share some of the things that I've been working on.
Yeah.
I go by Cheryl.
Okay.
That's
All right,
it.
Cheryl.
So I do appreciate this. This has been an interesting time for me, being here in Oregon. Just really a different environment. I moved here from Miami about 9 years ago.
Okay.
And it's just a really different environment. It has been a learning journey for real.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what has brought you to Oregon from Miami?
I came here with someone.
Okay.
We were in a long-term relationship. We were both in Miami. I was working full-time at the university and working on my doctorate at that time.
Nice.
He was working with a nonprofit agency, and his job went away. So I said, all right, whoever gets it first, that's where we go. Because I wasn't planning on staying in Miami once I graduated. So he got the job here in Oregon, and so I came to Oregon with him. And we've been here about 8-9 years. We separated a little over a year ago.
Okay.
And so I'm now still here, working my way through Oregon and, experiencing Oregon and all that it has here.
Okay.
It's a totally different environment. Coming here with a background in academia and education and all of that, I come to an environment where it's pretty heavily immersed in social services, mental health, addiction and recovery. So this has been an environment that is brand new to me. I worked 3-4 different times back and forth in Seattle and Washington State. Several different jobs here in the Portland area. And so my last position that I had was teaching in Washington State out in East Washington. When that contract ended, then I came back to Portland and I said, well, you know what, that's it. I've run back and forth to Seattle 3 times and it's just contract teaching and it's too much. I'm going to stop and stay here. Yeah. So I did. I started out volunteering with a women's program with the Salvation Army. And they were women that were transitioned out of that shelter and into housing. Oh, wow. And so the director wanted them to learn how to manage their money and do better budgeting. So that was what I did. 1 hour a week, I would travel into the Salvation Army and teach a budgeting class with those women. We had about 12 women over the course of, I'd say 3 or 4 months that went through it. Some were able to make some changes in their financing and others were still kind of working through that. It's a process.
Sure.
But from there, I ended up getting a part-time job with another agency teaching tenant law. So they had a curriculum that was just amazing to me of teaching folks how to navigate their backgrounds that were barriers to keeping them out of housing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I got to teach that curriculum for almost a year in 5 different shelters here in Portland. Men and women and families that, were in various stages of homelessness, transitioning trying to get back into housing, but because of their backgrounds, criminal backgrounds, eviction, all those kinds of things, they were keeping them out of housing with that. Portland had a huge homeless boom right around 2013, I think, 2014. And there was just skyrocketing rents and just priced people out of their housing. And so, it was pretty traumatic just to go through and see that. But what I learned from that, people have so many different stories that brought them to where they were. And what I saw was there was just a lack of just basic life skills, of understanding what you needed to do. Things that probably you and I learned as children in our families, and now as grown women, we just do those things, right?
Right.
They didn't have those skills, and that's what I discovered, was that they're missing these life skills. How did that happen? And so I had to just revert back to the basics of, teaching people just how to add and subtract in their checkbook. That kind of thing. Yeah, it was that basic. But, I did literacy training when I was in Florida, so I drew on that to work with this population. But it eventually moved me into the position that I'm in right now as a resident service coordinator with an agency that houses this population.
Okay.
So they had built a new permanent supportive housing and opened it up for folks who were in their transitional housing, as well as people who were in shelters and people who were actually living on the streets. They went through the whole interview intake process and got into housing that way. So this was a whole new arena for me, working with this population. I'm like, holy cow, I don't know enough. What am I doing here? But again, drew on my background of just knowing what I need to do to figure out what I need to do. And so I have been working with this population for about 2 years now, gotten a lot of different things going in place for them to help them learn how to live in permanent housing. So those are some of the things that I'm working on right now. Just, helping folks learn how to live in housing, because Portland is continuing to build this housing to address this population. And they need the support and the services to be able to stay in that housing. So that's kind of what I do. I coined the phrase, helping them keep their keys, because that's what we do.
It's so easy to take that for granted, that things that we know how to do, or that we have a house, or that we know how to budget, or that we have basic life skills. And I noticed that you said, all of this was new to you, to, having to teach, that population these skill sets, but yet you drew on your background. There's a lot that can be said even in that. What would you say to someone who is now in transition, right? With everything going on with COVID and just so much. And they're looking for their niche or to find their footing. And you said you drew on your background. So what would you suggest to someone who's trying to find their way now?
To try to find their way is to draw on their background. What do they know how to do right now? Their knowledge, skill, abilities, and expertise have gotten them to where they are right now.
Very good.
Okay. And so draw on that. That's your strength.
Yeah.
You may have thought, oh my God, look at this mess I made. That's your strength. That's your strength. Even when things go sideways, there's a lesson there. There's a lesson, what not to do or what to do differently the next time. So yeah, draw on that. Be in the moment every single day. And, one of my popular phrases, I'm 7 whole days on a mission. So every single day, I'm figuring out what it is I need to do, what I want to do, what I have to do, and then set about doing that. There's no real hard and fast prescription, because everybody is different.
Yes.
And so you draw on your strengths and you figure out what works for you, and then you apply that. I've had some great mentors in my life that when I was in school and I said, how do I manage this program? My mentor said, you get out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay. And so that's what I did to be able to manage it and make it through. And so, that's what I tell folks now. You figure out when is your best time to do your best work, and then that's what you get up and do.
That's good. I like that too. Yes. Yeah. You're saying a lot be in the moment every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we can get so caught up into just doing, right? Or
Absolutely.
checking the boxes that we're not in the moment, we're not present
Right.
in the moment.
Right.
So I can definitely relate to that,
Mm-hmm.
being present in the moment. And even as far as what you were saying, Cheryl, like draw on your background, everything I'm doing now is because I'm drawing from my background, right?
Absolutely.
It's just amazing that um, I think oftentimes we can forget about skill sets that we have, or things that we've learned or experiences that we've had
Mm-hmm.
that can help us today, help us right now in the moment, in the
Absolutely.
present.
Absolutely.
Even for me, a lot of my coordinating, a lot of the interviews I'm doing now, well, over a decade ago, I had a vision of, hosting my own television show and this and that. And I did do that for a quick minute, but I never thought that I would utilize those skill sets
Mm-hmm.
until I wanted to do something different. And so I asked myself, Rhonda, what's in your hand? You don't have to struggle so much to try to figure this out because you already have something that God is giving you, right? So it's a matter of, for me, it's what has God given me to do, gifted me to do.
Right.
What you're saying, what have you already done?
Mm-hmm.
That people can actually sit down, think about, analyze, and perhaps that is the direction in which
Right.
they can go. So
Right.
I so love that, every single
Yes.
day, be in the moment.
Yes.
Really, 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 really critical, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so with all of this that you're doing, it sounds like you've done and are still doing a lot of empowerment type
Yes.
programs. Why
Yes.
is that so important, especially today?
Because there's just so many darts and arrows that are coming our way every single day. And you just have to figure out how do you get around those. Again, this
Mm-hmm.
population that I work with, I started an women's empowerment group earlier this year before COVID for
Mm-hmm.
this very reason. Our women at our property come from DV situations. They're in recovery. They have young children.
Wow.
One of the things that I
Hmm.
definitely wanted to address was helping them stabilize so their kids could stay in school. It's very traumatic when the child is pulled out of school, interrupts their education, et cetera, et cetera. The educator in me says, we got to figure out how do we settle this situation. Some kids were just being returned to their parents or to their mothers
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from being with other relatives or in foster care. So trying to get them stable so that they can get into school and, start to learn and continue to advance. So that women's empowerment that I started was to help them understand what they needed to do, not just for where they were building
Mm-hmm.
community, but for themselves individually and for their families.
Very
So one
nice.
of the very first workshops that we did was journaling, writing it down,
Why
putting
is that
yourself
so
on a schedule and
powerful? I'm
figuring out
definitely,
what you need to do or
yes.
what you want to do, and then how do you go about doing that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm certainly a proponent of journaling. Even just as far as reflecting and not, even to do
Mm-hmm.
this or just reflecting. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, what success did you see that came from those women journaling? Did it, help them to achieve their goals? Did it help them self-reflect, or what came out of that process?
It helped them to at least see where they are again in the moment, because this was the whole point of this. Our property was new and there was a lot of things happening.
Mm-hmm.
So just seeing where you are in the moment and then understanding you do have some control here.
Oh,
It's
wow.
not stuff happening to you.
Mm.
You have some control here. So let's
Mm.
write it down in whatever form you want. The workshop facilitator that I brought in, she gave them lots of different ways that they could journal. You know, they could just pre-write, they could put calendars in there, they could put appointments in there, whatever they wanted. So she gave them lots of different options, and they got a chance to practice some of that in the workshop. So the women walked away with a sense of, here's something tangible
Mm-hmm.
that I can be in charge of.
Oh,
It's
I love
not just happening to me. I can really
yes.
document what's going on and then figure out, what do I need to do? Who do I need to talk
Mm-hmm.
to address this situation? Because ultimately what we're trying to do there on that property is move them to a point of self-sufficiency. And so I journal, you know, throughout my life. Different things are happening to me, and sometimes this is how I get it all out, is because I
Mm-hmm.
may not have someone to talk to at that moment.
Right.
So I journal it as a way to get it out there. And who knows, that journal may get published one of these days. I don't know. It's just
Right.
for me right now, it's just a way to get things down there and, you know, see what I'm doing. I'm a visual person, and if I
Yes.
have those things in front of me, then I know, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm working on.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that was the whole point of that. It's just to help them start to gain some control
Very
of
good.
where they were, and understanding that, you know, it's not happening to you.
Mm.
You are 100% in charge of this.
Wow. That's really, really good. That is
Yeah.
really good. Yeah, because they need to be self-sufficient and they have
Yes.
to be able to own their situation, right?
Yes.
That they can control it. I think that's so powerful
Mhm.
because we can, blame other people or whatever the situation or woe is me. But the question
Mhm.
becomes, okay, what do I do to change my current situation? And
Exactly.
that's one way of doing just that. So let me ask you, since we're talking about, women who dare to dream, how do you encourage those women to dream for themselves or to have a dream because they are where they are, but
Mhm.
there is hope. So how
Mhm.
do you give them their hope for a future, Cheryl?
I simply ask them, what is it that you want?
Mm,
What is it that you need?
mm,
And then I let them tell me what they want or what they need.
very
You know,
nice.
they need to have a better job.
Mm-hmm.
They want to have a healthier lifestyle. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they want to be strong in their recovery,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
I simply ask them, and I let them tell me, and then we work on an action plan
Very
as to
good.
how they go about doing that. So my whole role there is facilitate their path,
Ah,
give
nice.
them the tools, and
Mm-hmm.
then they do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Come back and we check in. Let's see, how did it work out?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this happened, that happened. Okay, how do you feel about that? Well, I think I should have done this or that. Okay, so you got another opportunity to go back out
Mm-hmm.
and do and try that. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
I kind of maneuver them to explore the unknown, because they won't do it on their own. So
yeah. Right.
I just keep feeding questions to them and let them come up with the answers, and then give them the green light to go and do it.
Very nice. I
Yeah,
like that. Yeah. Give them the permission, the green light
exactly,
to go
exactly,
ahead and do that thing.
exactly.
So with those women, we talk about, their goals for yourself.
Hmm.
What is a dream of yours? What is the vision for your life?
For me, it's just having a peaceful life.
Mm,
I'm at that age and stage now where it's at having a peaceful life.
yeah, it's
And you
nothing
know,
like
I've
peace.
worked and gone through all of the trials and tribulations, as so many people have. There's nothing unique here,
Mm-hmm.
but just having a peaceful life, and that's where I am right now. You know,
Mm,
in the midst of this pandemic, I feel
yes,
very calm and very relaxed, and that's by design.
yes. That's
Yes, that's by
deliberate.
design. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, tomorrow's not promised. So I want to make sure I'm making the best of every single day that I do have. I continue to give my gifts and talents in
Mm-hmm.
whatever capacity that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings me peace.
Mm,
That brings me a sense of solace, knowing that
good.
I was able to help someone else, you know, just kind of figure out what it is that they want and then go after that. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say that for every single person who's in whatever role they're in, where transitioning or not, figure out what it is that you want and then just go after it. Don't worry about making the mistakes, because there are
Yeah.
going to be mistakes. It's trial and error every step of the way. And
Yeah.
again, you learn by what you do and then figure out what you need to do differently. So just be in the moment and go after that. Elevate your expectations and don't worry about, whether you've made a mistake, you've made a wrong decision or not, because you ultimately will, but you'll figure it out what you're doing from there.
Hmm. I mean, those are just such wise words. And I wrote down what you were saying about elevate your expectations, because I think oftentimes we don't set our expectations high enough,
Mm-hmm.
or we're just complacent with
Mm-hmm.
what life brings our way. But yeah, if we elevate our expectations, it's just like a former college professor. And so I would have my students, I would tell them, listen, in Miss Mincy's class, we get all A's and we get high A's. We don't even do B's in here. And some of them will look at me like, oh, I've already failed. What are you talking about? I'm like, please come back next week. They came back, but I set the expectations so high for them. And then, Cheryl, I'm sure you probably know, they rose up to meet those expectations.
Absolutely.
And it's the same thing that we have to do in our lives. And, as women, empowering other women,
Mm-hmm.
that we need to dream big. That's what
Yes.
I talk about. Dream in technicolor. We don't have to dream bland dreams or little small dreams. But I say, if we're going to do anything, like what you were saying, you use your life to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whatever time we have on this earth, I believe that we should really make it matter. So,
Right.
if we're going to do something, go all out and do it. I totally
Yes.
concur with you on that.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Before we go, I know you mentioned that you had a mentor and
Mm-hmm.
how important that was for you.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that we need mentors? Why is that critical for us?
The mentor that I had was a tough teacher,
Okay.
and she shaped me
Mm.
to be the person that I am today. I'm always someone who sets a schedule, checks the boxes, and keeps it
Mhm.
moving on and on and on and on. And so she was the person who said, "Is this good enough?" She always challenged me to think, "Is this good enough?" And then I had another mentor who was very gentle in his criticism. He always started out with something very nice and positive, and then would
Mhm.
ease me into what I needed to do differently. And so I've taken those two different approaches and sort of molded my own style as to how I guide people into, what it is that they say they want or need.
Mhm.
And then how I also set in those little checkpoints of, here's when you said you were going to do this. So let's take a look and see, did we get that done?
Very nice.
And if we did, great. What did you get from that? If we didn't, what do we need to do to get that done? So, I live by that, and that's just try to lead by example by doing that,
Mhm.
helping people understand how they go about just taking charge and doing what they need to do.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've used the best of both worlds, the attributes from both of your mentors, and
Hmm.
now you're incorporating those same skill sets, and
Hmm.
now you're leading the exact same way. I
Hmm.
think that is so powerful, and it kind of segues into why I'm doing what I'm doing with these women who dare to dream, because
Great.
each one should teach one, right? And I believe
Absolutely.
that as women, we have to empower, encourage, inspire, uplift
Hmm.
one another. And by you sharing your story, I can learn from you, and vice versa.
Hmm.
And I firmly believe that your success is my success, and vice versa,
Thank you.
right? So
Yes.
we're all definitely in this together in a way that we could never imagine. And,
Right. Right.
to be able to reach out to each other, I think is very, very powerful. So as we close, oh my gosh, the time has just flown by. It's like crazy.
Yes.
I've so enjoyed, talking to you and getting to know a little bit more about you, your passion, what drives you, some of the lessons you've learned, what
Hmm.
inspires you. So, is there any, final words or advice you would like to leave for someone who may be watching?
I would say life is what you make it.
Mm,
You draw on what you know how to do and you go from there.
all right.
Don't be afraid to make a mistake. That's how you learn.
Yes.
That's how you grow.
Yes.
Give your gifts and talents. Absolutely.
Oh, beautifully said.
Thank you very much for this
Oh,
opportunity.
beautifully said. I so feel that. And I thank you so, so, so very much. And look forward to hearing more about what you're doing. Thanks again.